Hello, God's beautiful people. I am Antoinette, and welcome back to Take Care of Your Temple. Tonight is going to be personal, so it is not meant for children. So I was around 9 years old, I believe I was. Yeah, I was 9, and I was molested. I was molested by two different people that were not in my bloodline, one female and one male. So I remember after it happened when I was a male, when it was the female, my mom had a two-bedroom apartment, and we were in the I'm gonna say the last room that was close to the bathroom. And I remember going to the window, and my mom had these light green curtains with dark green. The leaves were dark green, more darker green than the curtain itself. I remember leaning on the windowsill and looking out the window, and the sky was so beautiful and blue, and the clouds were so beautiful, and all I could do is cry. I remember crying so hard because I knew something had happened to me that shouldn't have, and I had no one to talk to about it. And when I tried to talk to someone about it, this certain individual was like, I'm going to the club tonight, and there is nothing that'll stop me from going to the club tonight. And it kind of made me feel like kind of rejected. So I didn't tell him about it. I just buried it. A couple months later, we moved to a different state because my mom got married, and this one was male. He used to watch my children not my children. He used to watch my sister and I. Um, my sister was my sister is about 4 years younger than me. He never did anything to her, and I remember hiding her in a closet so that he wouldn't do anything for her. So while he'd do what he'd have to do, you know, she'd be hidden in the closet. She won't have to see, you know. He would never take my clothes off. It was just some touching here, some kissing there, some oral. I did oral to him. He never did oral to me. Um, so and he would always tell me that, if I told anybody, would nobody believe me anyway. So I never told anybody. I just buried it, you know. So um, years go by. Um, my dad got out of the army, and we moved back to the States because we moved to Germany for a while. We moved back to the States, and I met a girl at church. I believe she was about 3 years younger than me. And I thought we hit it off pretty well. I really did. I thought that we were just going to be the best friends ever. And in my eyes, we were best friends. To me, she was my best friend. But one thing you have to do is you have to pay attention to the warning signs. Like, people would tell me that she talked about me behind my back, and I would never believe it, because in my eyes, she was my best friend. She was like my only friend. We used to be together like all the time. I had other associate people, you know what I mean, but not like her, you know. And it's like weird though, because when I would introduce her to my other associate friends, they all would be like, I don't like her. Oh gosh, my goodness, y'all. And my mom was like, nope, it's something about her. I don't like her. And I will never forget it. A time came, where I wished I would have listened to her, you know. And I remember, years went by because we had been friends for like 5 years. She had invited me to go out with her. She told me that we were going, and she told my parents, that we were going to somebody's grandmother's house and out to eat at Red Lobster. And I remember right before we was leaving my parents' house that night, something in my spirit told me not to go, stay home, not to go. I did not listen. I did not know that, you could have a relationship with the Lord at that time. I did not know that that was the Holy Spirit warning me of what was to come. So we ended up at, not most definitely, like I said, most definitely not at nobody's grandmother's house. We ended up at a hotel. There was alcohol. And, in the beginning of the night, I remember everything was fine. We had a nice time. Everybody was laughing, joking. It was a really nice time. And then I started drinking when I shouldn't have been drinking because I had never had alcohol in my system at all. And I believe I was 18 or 19 when this happened to me. Um, so I started drinking. And I remember when I was so drunk that my head fell, like I was kind of like passing out. My head hit the table. And then I woke up, not woke up, but how you just catch yourself from falling. And I just knew I just was not feeling good. And the hotel room that we had was conjoined rooms. She had her room with the guy that she was with at that time, and I had a room with, the blind date. I had never met this guy, you know. Um, and so when I felt that I wasn't feeling well, I kind of went to her and I was like, I'm not feeling well. Can I just stay in here? You won't even know I'm here. Can I just stay on the floor because I'm not feeling well? She was like, tonight is my night. You can go back in there. He ain't gonna do nothing to you. So I went back into the room and I remember passing out. I don't know how long I was passing out, but I know that when I came to, my body didn't feel the same. And I had on a long skirt that was white and gray and a really long skirt. It came down to my ankles. And, I'm 5'7". At that time, I might have been a buck 05, you know. So I did not feel my underwear. I remember that I did not feel my underwear. And, I was just, I didn't even know what to do with myself. I just knew that something wasn't right, and I kept saying it, something's not right, something's not right. And I was still kind of drunk. I could barely walk. And I remember they had to drag me to the car. And as they was dragging me to the car, she was like, I don't even know why I hang out with you. You so stupid. Just calling me out my name and just cussing me out and all this other kind of stuff. And so I remember being in the car and I was just feeling so sick. And I just remember crying and crying and crying, you know. And I remember they stopped the car and they pulled over to the side of the road. And the guy she was with was like, we can just throw her off in the ditch. Somebody will find her. And then the girl was like, oh, no, I can't do that. That's my best friend. And so the car started driving. And then I threw up. I remember throwing up. And then we ended up making it back to her mom's house. And I remember crying I told her mom, I ended up telling her mom, something's wrong. I remember telling, her, something's not right. And I told her I believe I was right, I was R word, you know. And I remember her mom pulling up my skirt and then she was like, don't tell nobody about this. So they let me stay the night at their house, at their apartment at night. And I remember the girl who I thought was my best friend was hugging on me and she was apologizing and saying I was her only friend and all of the other kind of stuff. But I was so drunk. I wasn't trying to hear nothing. I was just so drunk. And then I remember when they drove me back to my parents' house and they sat in my parents' house and lied. So, of course, I heard that. And so, I started telling my parents what happened. And then my parents was like, no, we got to take you to, you know, get you looked at. So we went to the hospital. They did the R kit on me. I remember I was in that hospital for um, at least, it took at least 8 hours. I remember I remember they examined me. They cut my hair. They drew blood. They went up under my nails, and they offered me what is that pill? They offered me the morning after pill, and I took the pill to be safe. And I remember I was in so much pain down there. And the man that did my examination was like, yeah, she was, R word, you know. And I was torn down there and everything. And then, um, my mom was there the whole time. I remember my mom was holding my hand and everything, you know. And so after they did examination, you know, I and they, determined that I had been R word. They told me that I should, go to the police and report. So I went to the police and I reported it. And when I sat down with the investigator said that he had just like let that person out of jail that Friday for drugs. And not only that, that's when I found out that he had told me he gave me the wrong name. He lied to me about his name, and that gave me even more of a push to continue, going on with it because, in my mind, I was thinking there's probably no telling who else he's done this to, and being that I had never been with anybody anyway, outside of being molested orally, So I ended up, my parents got me a lawyer. And I remember when I met the lawyer, she was a beautiful, she looked Italian or something, but I remember she was slender. She was beautiful. She had the prettiest brown hair, like in that bob, like the little, the short Edna from The Incredibles. She had a bob like Edna from The Incredibles, but she was beautiful. And I remember her telling me she took my case because the same thing happened to her when she was in high school, but her best friend dragged her out of the room, you know. So, with that being said, it was at least a year and a half before he got sentenced, and when he was sentenced, he got 5 to 8 years. He had to be registered as a sex offender. And I remember the judge said, I hope this teaches him to keep his hands to himself, you know. And I remember I hugged the lady who was my lawyer, what I mean? And I thanked her, because I never thought that I would get through that. And, the only person that could get you, well, God's not a person, but I know God had his hands on me. God kept me because that's the only way I was able to even, get through that. I didn't go into like some major depression or anything. I think I may have stayed out of school for like 4 days. And then, they did have to give me some type of gel. They gave me some type of gel to put inside me, you know, because I was ripped up, in my personal area. But I know that the Lord had his hands on me because, I did not go into a deep depression. But I can admit to this, when I tried to go to a therapist, in my mind, how can a therapist help me because they haven't experienced what I went through, you know? Um, and I felt like a guinea pig because they sit there in front of you with this notepad. Nope, I couldn't do that. That wasn't for me. So I dealt with that happening to me in a negative way. I After I graduated high school, um I started doing drugs. I smoked weed, and to me in my mind it would help me forget, because some things you just, you couldn't forget. So, for that little moment while I was high, everything was fine. In my mind, nothing happened, and you would think, I was hanging around some girls, just being a young teenager, but deep down inside, I knew the real reason why I was smoking was because I just wanted to forget. I just wanted to erase what just happened to me. And with time, I realized that the only person that could help me deal with that and to cope with that was God, and You don't forget things. You can forgive, but you can't forget. Because I remember, I had to write him. I had to write him a letter of forgiveness. He didn't write me a letter of forgiveness or, apology letter or nothing like that. I had to write him a letter of forgiveness. But that just goes to show you how backwards this world is, because I also realize people that sell drugs get more time than men that are and molest women and children, you know. But I just feel, that I'm really thankful for the grace of God because I know through all of that, God had His hands on me, And I also remember the detective, the investigator told me. He said, "Well, you got lucky." He said, "Because usually after they do that to women, they kill them." you know. And I'm thankful, what I mean, my life has not been peaches and cream, but life isn't meant to be peaches and cream. You know, I'm glad that he did not do that because, you know, I wouldn't have the future that I have now. But I like to tell people my story because, you never know what a person has gone through, you know. And I do remember when I had my encounter with God in March of 2021, one thing he told me is to forget my past, to stay out of my past. And I feel that I'm now at the place in my life where, I can talk about things, but I also know I can talk about it knowing that I have healed through the grace of God and that I can help somebody else by telling my story, because you'll never know what a person has lived through or survived in their life. And one part of taking care of our temple is, our mind, our body, and our soul. And I really feel that, talking about things helps. And this world has all kinds of things in it, good and bad. And like I told y'all on the last podcast, I really do like to help people. So what better way to help someone else out is by telling your story, by telling your testimony. So I hope that this blesses someone's life. And thank you for listening. God bless everyone.